Hello friends, Adam here with FED. Today, I want to talk about just my favorite games in the series. And I'm going to do it as a tier list because I can, because it's honestly pretty easy content, and for whatever reason you guys love clicking on these tier list videos. So, here we are. We're going to talk about every game. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on them, and I'm going to place them on this tier list. And this is purely based on my personal opinion. So, if I say something that you disagree with, that's fine. That's what the comments are for. Please, watch the video. If I do something dumb, go yell at me in the comments. I love it. It's my favorite part of doing tier lists. So, let's get started. Let's go chronologically. By starting with FE1. FE1 is the definition of decent to me. Decent game. See, this is like baseline Fire Emblem for me. I don't think there's any Fire Emblem game that is actually bad. There's not a single Fire Emblem game that I think is actually a bad game. I think, like, as a whole, the series is kind of like a 7 out of 10, if I'm being honest. I love them to death, don't get me wrong. Me personally, I think everything's like, I think they're all super good. I have a lot of 10 out of 10 games here for me, personally. But I know, having played other video games and having grown up a little, having opinions, all that stuff, I've come to realize that Fire Emblem may not be the most well-made game of all time. And in the NES era, it's no different. It's a decent game. I really like Shadow Dragon: The Blade of Light, especially in more recent times when I've been able to play it on my Switch. But it's still tedious, it's slow, really unfriendly to newcomers too, which is kind of annoying to me for some reason. And just the fact that you can't check weapon stats and things like that is just annoying. It expects you to have the guide, have the book, the booklet that came with the game with you, which is fine, I guess. But it's just, I'm not a fan of a game really wanting me to use outside sources to be successful. And I feel like this kind of wants you to do that. Alright, Gaiden. Yeah, it's decent. Gaiden's okay. Fire Emblem Gaiden, it's an NES game, therefore it's slow and tedious to play through. I have my fun with it. I think I do have more fun with it than FE1 overall. There's just a certain charm to it, but yeah, it's still an NES game that's way too slow for my taste. The best thing it has going for it is like some customizability with the villager units, and then also infinite warp stuff like that is really fun. So it's a fun game to cheese and mess around with, less fun to like seriously play it. So it's decent for me. FE3, Fire Emblem: Mystery of the Emblem. I'm sorry, I've had a lot of people tell me that when I say FE3 or FE2 or FE7, they're not necessarily sure which game I'm talking about, so I'll be more clear from here on out, or try to be. So New Mystery of the Emblem is like, I know there's a lot of people that like it better than Shadow Dragon and New Mystery of the Emblem, but it's just what it comes down to is it's more tedious, and that's going to be a big theme here. The more tedious a game is, the more I dislike it, generally. Unless it does something really spectacular. If Fire Emblem is slow, or doesn't move quickly, it's just not for me. And by not for me, I mean, I'm still going to play it, I'm still going to love it, but it's less for me than other games. So, Mystery of the Emblem, I love the story. I love a lot of the color, like the characters, and the art is really colorful. That like 90s anime inspired portraits and stuff are really great. It's overall just a huge improvement on Gaiden and Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, but still just isn't there for me. The series, like at this point, the series just hasn't blossomed for me. Still good, but not great. All right. Genealogy of the Holy War. This is probably the hardest game for me to rank ever. Some days and some parts of it, I'm like, oh, this game is amazing. There's even some parts where I might even say this game is incredible. But for the most part, I think it's just good. It's just good. I think No, I'm going to keep it below Mystery of the Emblem. Genealogy of the Holy Ward is really... such a mixed bag for me. I like a lot of the characters. The story's pretty cool, I guess. The gameplay is so monotonous. So monotonous and slow. It's funny, I think the part of the gameplay that's the most intriguing to me is all the arena-ing and stuff before the actual map begins. Like, just like figuring out ways to get units through and everything, which in a lot of times just comes down to holding down the emulator speed up button and just mashing A until you win. But I don't know, a lot of that's interesting to me. So yeah, Genealogy of Holy War is like, okay, it's good. It's good. Definitely better than the NES games, but it's just good. For me. Yeah, I'll say that. Alright, Thracia 776, or FE5. Incredible. One of my favorite games in the series. Absolutely just incredible. I love the story. I love the cast. Even, I know there's a lot of characters that have little to nothing to them other than, you know, just they're just a blank sheet of stats that you get to just use if you need to. You know, like Alba Kane, or Alba Kane, however it is now. And, what's his face, Robert. But then there's, for every one of those kind of units, there's another one that's really cool. You know, your Orsons, your Halvan, Matcha, one of my favorites. Marita's always fun to use. Finn is such a cool character and a fun unit. All sorts of stuff. All sorts of characters that are really fun and really colorful and happy. It's just good. I love Thracia 776. I know a lot of people don't like the end game because it gets kind of staff spammy. But I think that's kind of fun. I don't know. And it feels rewarding to build up your staff unit to A rank. You know, you get your first, you get Safi or your first staff unit to A rank, and you're just like, dang, there's a lot I can do now. And it is so fun. Warp, rescue, rewarp, and then, you know, you got your silences, sleeps, berserk even. You have access to so much stuff, and I love it. It just gives you so many tools to play around with. And what's great about it is it expects you to use those tools, and that's really good. That's what makes a strategy game fun. When they give you tools and expect you to use them. I like that. Alright, now for the Binding Blade, the 6th game in the series. The GBA games, I just don't like them, man. See, it's really bad. I think I would rather play Binding Blade over the NES games, but not by much. It's really tedious. It just is. And the weight calculation formula, so the way that your AS, your attack speed, is calculated, is just really frustrating to me. The fact that you have to go to 2 different pages to find all the information that you need. And I know that sounds kind of nitpicky, but over the course of an entire playthrough where you're constantly checking stats and everything, having to switch between stat pages constantly during a map is so frustrating to me. You know, later games in the series fix this problem by just putting everything on the same freaking screen. Everything you need to know for, like, generally. And you look at the Tellius games, they do that, but then they have separate pages for less important information. And information that you would want all on the same page is all on the same page. So, and what I mean by that, in the GBA games, you have all your weapons and stuff on one page, all your weapon ranks on another page, and then the third page of stats, which you just have to cycle through by pressing left and right on this, like, unit status screen. That page has all the stats. You know, all the basic stats you can think of, but also their constitution. So to find out your real attack speed, rather than the game just calculating it for you and just putting it in the bottom corner or something, like you do in, like, the Tellius games or something, you have to go to the weapon stat page, look at the weapon weight, go to the stat page, look at your con, then do weapon weight minus con, and then take that number and do speed minus that number that you got, and then that's your attack speed. And I'm okay with having weight formulas and stuff like that, but just make it so everything's on one page and just make it faster. That's my big problem with the GBA games, is that it's tedious and it takes a long time to just figure things out that should be simple. And again, nitpicky. I'm sure people in the comments are going to be like, that's dumb. It's a dumb reason not to like these games, but it's enough for me. And it doesn't do other things very spectacularly. Like, there's nothing for me to like, gain from the GBA games, that makes me say, oh, I can deal with this problem. There's nothing. Other games do pretty much everything else better. There's a lot of games in the series that do everything better than the GBA games. I even have more fun playing... You know what? No. Just to make people mad, I'm going to do it. I have more fun playing the NES games than the GBA games in most instances. Yeah. The GBA games are just a huge turnoff for me. Don't know why. Like, beyond what I've already talked about. I don't know what it is. They just irk me. I despise them. I don't like them. That's no particular order for the GBA games. They're just there. They're at the bottom. My least favorite games in the series to play. I'll stop sugarcoating it. I dislike them. Alright, Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance is a hard one for me. So, you asked me maybe 3 years ago what my favorite game in the series is. I probably would have said Path of Radiance, and I probably would have, or even just like a year ago, I would have put it in Amazing. But again, it's so slow. Like, frick, dude. It is so frickin' slow. I can't get over it, man. I love the characters. Probably my favorite cast of characters outside of maybe Radiant Dawn. Which is basically the same cast, except with just more characters I like. You know, like added on top. So I was like cheating. Awesome supports. The maps up until like chapter... I would say up until like chapter 15 are really fun. Then you get to chapter like 16, 17, and Path of Radiance starts to slow down a lot. Enemy spam becomes a little more prevalent, and enemy phases take even longer than before. And that's when it starts to get kind of frustrating to play for me. I will say, I think I'm going to put it at the top of good for now. Might move it later if I'm feeling froggy or different. But for now, I can't justify putting it in Amazing just because of the negative feelings I have for it right now. Radiant Dawn, this will come as no surprise to you guys. The Incredible, not ordered in any particular way, by the way. They're just all amazing, and it's hard for me to order them. Radiant Dawn is amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, I said amazing, but I meant incredible. It is one of my favorite games of all time. One of the best games in the series, in my opinion. I know some people don't like the story. They say it's convoluted or whatever. I don't freaking care. The gameplay is so tight and so solid. This game is a perfect example of Fire Emblem, of a rigid Fire Emblem game where the gameplay benefits from the rigidity, if that makes sense. So Three Houses, I feel like, kind of gets hurt a little bit by how free and open it is, whereas Radiant Dawn really capitalizes on the limits it gives the player, and every unit feels unique in some way. Like, surprisingly, you would think that would be some that don't feel unique for some reason, but they all do. I'm trying to think of units that I don't have like some sort of unique memory of or unique feeling for. Man, I don't know. You could say like Kaiza, I guess. I love Liar, so she's one of my favorite units in the series. Actually, Liar's awesome. I know a lot of people probably think her is just kind of your basic unit that no one likes, but I love her. She's awesome. Even units like Meg, she may not be great, but she's super unique. You know, she comes with a base 10 speed Armor Knight, I guess. There's also only 10 defense, which is, I think it's the same or less than Aaron, and also bad HP. She's just bad too. Like, she doesn't statistically but she's a statistical anomaly for an Armor Knight, which is just fun to see. And she has like orangish pinkish armor, which is awesome. Always fun. She's just a fun unit, cool unit. And even so I could go on for days about the different characters in Radiant Dawn that I really love, and different units I really love in Radiant Dawn. But the game culminates in what might be the best endgame sequence in the series too. And I think that's part of why I like it so much, is that its lasting impression is so good. I'll admit that some of the part 4 chapters are a slog to get through. I'm looking like the desert map is kind of a pain. Even if you have a bunch of flyers, it's still slow because it's just so big. The swamp map can be a pain unless you just cheese it with Tabarn and maybe another flyer. Like actually, you generally like you could cheese it with like again with Tabarn, then maybe a lucky Alencia stun or crit or something with the MIDI. You could do it, but otherwise that chapter can be kind of a pain, especially on hard mode. It's a lot, just enemy spam, which is most of part 4 up until endgame. But endgame, the tower. So in Radiant Dawn, the last 5 maps are all considered endgame, and they are incredible. The first 3 maps are some of my favorites in the game. In particular, the one with all the dragons is really awesome. The third one. I think a lot of people dislike that one, but it's just a really fun fight. It's a really fun boss, and in most games in the series, Deginsia would just be the final boss in terms of difficulty and creativity. He would just be it. That would just be the final boss. He's just a huge ball of stats, really hard to take down. But Radiant Dawn takes it a step further, and then you get to the next map, which is okay. And then the final map is crazy good. And probably the most creative final boss in Fire Emblem. Aside from maybe, you could argue the final boss of Revelation, Anankas, is on par even. But Ashura is just such a good final boss. And I love the story personally, of Radiant Dawn. I know a lot of people don't. I love the story. The base conversations, the info convos, especially like when you get to the Grail Mercenaries, I think they're really good. They're so, sorry. I'll move on from Radiant Dawn. I love it to death. Alright, next we have Shadow Dragon, a remake of the first game in the series. And I think I'm going to put it like here. I don't know. There's just something about it. It doesn't quite have the charm of FE3 or Mystery of the Emblem, which has book 1 and which has basically the same game in it as well, plus more. And also, it doesn't really, the game doesn't feel like it benefits from reclassing as much as it could have. Reclassing doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like it adds as much as it does take away in most instances, where units become less unique. It used to be that you had a unit like Sita was your only flyer for a long time, and that was something you had to work with. But guess what? Now Jagan can be a flyer, like super quick. Just as soon as you can reclass, Jagan can be a Draco Knight, and that Sita loses some of that personality. I think, and that's a detriment to the game, I think. But Shadow, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I prefer playing Shadow Dragon over anything in decent tier, but it's not quite. I think I do prefer FE3 over Shadow Dragon. So yeah. Okay, next we have New Mystery of the Emblem. This might surprise people. I actually haven't finished it yet. I'm playing it on the channel right now. It's my first playthrough of the game. And yes, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty for some reason. And by some reason, I mean because I'm having... It's honestly the most fun I've had with Fire Emblem in a long time. And yeah, incredible. Again, no order. These top 3 over here, no order. Absolutely incredible game. Absolutely incredible game. I have enjoyed my time with New Mystery of the Emblem's Lunatic Reverse more than I have pretty much any other Fire Emblem I've played in the past year or maybe 2 years. And that includes stuff like I've played through Radiant Dawn recently, I've played through Thracia 776 recently. New Mystery of the Emblem there's just something about it. The gameplay is so tight. The enemy placements is really smart. Like you have to really think about what you're doing. And then I know a lot of people don't like him, but I love Chris. Chris is a really fun unit to use. And this is coming from a guy where story isn't that important to me. Like I don't really care the story all that much. I care more about the gameplay. And New Mystery's gameplay is as tight as it gets in the series. Even with reclassing. Even with crazy items like the Rainbow Potion that give you just +2 to all your stats for the entire map. the game is balanced in a way that it expects you to use those tools. Again, my only experience is on the hardest difficulty. Maybe the lower difficulties, this is less the case, and it's more like Shadow Dragon. But on the highest difficulty, Lunatic Reverse, where the enemy always attacks first, they all have maxed out weapon ranks, incredibly powerful weapons, like silver weapons, even like Chapter 1. They are just incredibly high stats, incredibly hard to deal with. Enemy units. Shadow Dragon just expects you, not Shadow Dragon, sorry, New Mystery of the Emblem just expects you to use all the items that it gives you, all the tools that it gives you, and that's a good strategy game in my opinion. When it gives you all the resources and says, I expect you to use these resources, but I'm going to leave it to you to figure it out. So the first turn of a lot of the new mystery maps on Lunatic Reverse are really make or break, and that is what's going to determine whether or not you're going to like beat the map. So it comes down to like really planning out your first turn or two, and I personally just love it. It never gets old to me at this point. Again, I am not even done with the game yet, so maybe that will change, but for now, incredible. I love it. Alright, Fire Emblem Awakening. FE13 is amazing. I don't care what anyone says. Awakening is great. I love... This is a game where Three Houses, I feel, takes the extremely open concept of your character can be anything, and your character can learn almost any skill or any combat art and become whatever kind of unit they want to be. Awakening takes that and actually benefits from it by having slightly less options, but also rewarding the player for grinding and stuff, and making grinding really easy. It becomes less about traditional Fire Emblem gameplay and more about, you know, watching the big numbers go up and then, you know, doing like the really hard DLCs and stuff. So as a Fire Emblem game, really, it's probably not as good. But as like a JRPG, I love Awakening. It's really awesome. Really memorable characters. Shoutouts to Kellum, one of my favorites. And really awesome child units even. Just, yeah. Awakening's good. I think people sleep on it now. But yeah, Awakening's dope. Again, as a Fire Emblem, the traditional Fire Emblem experience, you're not going to find it here, really. Except from outside of the first couple maps or something. But as a JRPG, awesome. Love it. Alright, Birthright. You would think I would praise Birthright for the same reasons I praised Awakening, but there's something about it that I'm just not a fan of. So it's going to go into good tier. I don't like the characters as much. That's really what it comes down to. The gameplay is similar enough to Awakening that I should like it just as much, probably. But it's just not... It doesn't have the charm. It doesn't have the charm that Awakening does for me. So, yeah, Birthright, put it at the bottom of good. Probably the Fates route that I have played and will always probably play the least. The one I'm least interested in. Alright, Conquest, definitely an amazing game. Definitely an amazing game. And something that I haven't mentioned yet, I didn't mention with the other two 3DS titles I've talked about. They're so fast. Same with the DS games. They're so fast. Really respects your time. Love it. That's a good thing. Very, very quick. But yeah, it's an amazing game. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Amazing game. Conquest Chapter 10 is like the pinnacle of Fire Emblem map design. And I know some people hate the words hate the term map design for some reason. But it is some of the best, it does a defend map better than any other defend map in the series, like bar none. And it also just makes the player frantically make decisions. And in a strategy game, if you can make the player feel stressed out and frantic and stuff, and like there's so many things to get done and do, and every unit has something to do every turn, that's a good thing. I think. That's awesome. That's what I look for. That's part of the reason why I like New Mystery so much. New Mystery of the Emblem, I can't tell you how many, like, it's so rare on turn 1 of New Mystery of the Emblem, especially now that I'm like towards like, I'm way past halfway. I'm like I think I'm in the last like third of the game. You can't really deploy a unit that doesn't do something on turn 1. It's pretty rare that I can get away with that at this point. And Conquest Chapter 10 feels that same way. If Conquest did that more often, if there were more maps that felt that way, it would definitely go into Incredible. But it struggles in a lot of areas, especially the late game gets kind of annoying to me. Like, there's some gimmicks that I like. I don't like the word gimmick. I don't know. There's some map aspects that I do like, though. I do enjoy the Hinoka map, where you use... I was going to say Divine Pulse, but Dragon Veins is what they're called. You could use Dragon Veins to make it so flyers don't move as far, but your units move farther. But Hinoka is constantly using Dragon Veins to make it so flyers move farther, and grounded units can move less, like have less movement speed. Really fun back and forth. I really like that. And there's plenty of examples of good maps and good like Dragon Vein things and whatever else in Conquest. But there's also plenty of maps that I don't like as much. Like the Ninja Hideout is not my favorite. It's not bad. I think I like it more than most people, but it's not great. And trying to think of other ones. The map where you fight Sakura towards endgame is kind of a pain to me. I don't like the way they split up units, and I know you can just put them all on one side, but it's still just kind of a weird map to me. But yeah, Conquest, it's an amazing game. Amazing Fire Emblem game. Yes, the story's bad, whatever. I don't really care. The gameplay is amazing. Revelation. Now, Revelation is a rough one for me to rank. Because I might be... I'm a pretty big Revelation defender here on the Fire Emblem YouTubeverse. I might be the biggest defender at this point. I don't really know. There's probably someone out there that likes it more than I do. But I can't justify putting it above, like, Path of Radiance. But I definitely want to put it above, like, Birthright. And I'm not sure where it lands in between these three. I probably would put it, like, just above Genealogy. And Shadow Dragon. You know what? And FE3. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, and Mystery of the Emblem. Revelation is one of the most hated games in the series. That has some of the most solid gameplay in the series. People hate the quote, unquote, gimmicky maps. And I think they need to just kind of get over themselves. Because I don't think the gimmicks aren't even that bad. I think they're fun. And then also it's just a big sandbox. Lots of units to play around with. It's fun. Stop hating on Revelation. It's a fine game. Okay, Echoes, Shadows of Valentia is amazing. And it's amazing for a different reason than other games in Amazing are amazing. It has top 3 favorite cast in the series. Really, really great. The music is awesome. The voice acting is the best in the series. And I mean, I know there's only like 2 games that really have voice acting. But definitely the best. And while the gameplay may be tedious or slow, not slow, but like not as like refined as other games at times, it really makes up for it in presentation. And that's really all it comes down to. I love the story and I love the presentation of this game. Therefore, it's amazing. And finally, 3 Houses. We're not doing any like spin-offs. We're not doing the Kaga sagas in this list. Just Fire Emblem. Just so you guys know. 3 Houses. It's amazing. It is amazing. If it was a little more careful with the way it designed units and a little more restrictive even, I think I would like it more. But at this point, it's kind of a pain to me. There's so much to think about and so much to consider when building your units that you would think it would be a good thing, but there's a lot of your characters just kind of become samey, and it gets rid of a lot of the uniqueness that other entries in the series have. So I like it. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong. And honestly, I owe this YouTube channel success to 3 Houses, basically. That 3 Houses, you know, before 3 Houses came out, I think I was chilling at like 250 subs or something after, you know, 6 months of posting pretty regularly. And then 3 Houses comes out. I make a few videos on that, and here I am. You know, I had 1,000 subs within like 2 weeks of that game coming out, and it's awesome. So I love it for that. Don't get me wrong. I'll always have fond memories of 3 Houses. But it is just like a step away from me from being incredible. It doesn't do anything quite good enough to be incredible tier. Whether it's the story, the voice acting, the supports, the monastery, the maps themselves, characters and how they feel, that unit feel. Just everything is just like one little bit short for me. Still great though. Don't get me wrong. It's still an amazing game. And finally, I haven't put anything into GOAT tier or greatest of all time for me yet. And that's because I'm going to take one of these games from Incredible and move it up there. Now, each game in Incredible, I feel like I like it for a different reason. Actually, not really. They're all I like them all for pretty much the same reason. Never mind. I lied. They're all just really fun to play. They're so good. And my initial thought is to put Radiant Dawn up here. It's probably my favorite. It's been my favorite game in the series for a long time. But I also really, really love Thracia recently. Thracia 776 has done really well, in my opinion. And the new translations really help it. That's probably more so than anything. And like the little quality of life improvements in those translations are awesome. And New Mystery might be here once I finish it, but I can't justify putting it into greatest of all time without actually finishing it first. So that being said, I think Radiant Dawn is probably my favorite of all time. Greatest of all time, Fire Emblem for me. Just so good. I could gush about Radiant Dawn all day. Anyways, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. What's your favorite game in the series, or where would you maybe even give your own tier list? I don't know if you're feeling froggy down there. I would love to know your thoughts. Please subscribe if you haven't to the channel. That would mean a lot. And please like the video. It helps other people find it. It helps the channel grow. I'd appreciate it. Again, thank you. I'll catch you next time, friends.